Hi, so today we're going to be talking about academic language, which is something really important. It's something that's really a major part of the EdTPA. So, academic language is the oral and written language used for academic purposes. It is the language of the discipline or language of science used to engage students in learning and includes the means by which students develop and express content understandings. So, students use academic language to kind of make sense of the content, and that's how they learn it. So, we really want to encourage the use of academic language in our lesson plans. Academic language uses the language demands and functions, and so it includes the language functions, which are the purpose for which language is used. It's also the content and language focus of learning tasks are often represented by the active verbs within the learning outcomes. So we use verbs like explain, describe, compare. In the lesson plan that I'm currently writing, for example, students are describing the steps of breathing. They're explaining the role of the respiratory system. They're comparing and contrasting the respiratory system with maybe the digestive system. So language functions are more they use those active verbs, and you kind of have to show what students are not just learning, but what they're doing with that information. So language functions also come from not just the objectives, but also the standards, and they have to kind of lead up to that central literacy focus of the unit. I mean, how are students learning? How are they practicing and kind of getting to that central literacy focus? So then we have the vocabulary, which is also a part of academic language. It includes words, phrases, and symbols used within disciplines. So words and phrases with subject specific, there's actually three different types of vocabulary. There's words and phrases with subject specific meanings that differ from meanings used in everyday life. Words like system, control, table, and then you have general academic vocabulary used across disciplines. These are things that are not just specific to science. Words like compare, contrast, explain, identify, and then you have subject-specific words and or symbols defined for use in the discipline. So for example, in science, we have words like respiratory system, photosynthesis, hypothesis. Once you hear the words scientific method, you know exactly what we're talking about. You know that it's we're talking about science. And so vocabulary can kind of have these three different levels. Another part of academic language is discourse, and discourse is how you use language, how members of the discipline talk, write, and participate in knowledge construction using the structures of written and oral language. So it's also discipline specific. Discourse has distinctive features or ways of structuring oral or written language, text structures, or representing knowledge visually. And I really like this part because different disciplines, different subjects have different ways of organizing information or structuring oral or written language. So for an example, in science, we have lab reports that we use to present information, our findings. We interpret graphic representations, so graphs and diagrams, maybe a paragraph explaining a diagram that would count as discourse, or explaining materials lists, or even having a materials list, or analyzing tabular representations. So analyzing tables, writing about these tables, analyzing that information, these all count towards discourse. And it prompts the use of vocabulary as well. So the next one is syntax. And with syntax and discourse, with the EdTPA and our lesson writing, you only have to do one, so you don't have to do the other. The syntax is the rules for organizing words or symbols together into phrases, clauses, sentences, or visual representations. I had a really hard time with this one until I saw this PDF. So one of the main functions of syntax is to organize language in order to convey meaning. What really helped me understand it was that it can be words or symbols that are put together, and then they can kind of not explain but include and explain concepts. So for example, mathematical sentences or formulas like D equals mv, you automatically know that D stands for density, m is mass, v is volume. You have symbols replacing reactants or products in chemical reactions. Symbols like O is for oxygen, C is for carbon. You know that those symbols represent something else. And then you also have Punnett squares. Even though it's just a box with letters in it, to anybody else, with someone who's in science, you automatically know that that has to do with genes. And yeah, so syntax helps you use words or symbols to make meaning. And this is all a part of academic language that students use. Thank you.